Hello and welcome to Pastor's Library. My name is Stephen Redman and this is the channel where we talk about everything to do with theology books, whether it's something for your bachelor's or master's degrees reading list, or whether it's just something for your pastor's or minister's bookshelf. And today we're going to talk a little bit in two parts over the next two videos about studies of Luke Acts. Now, if you enjoy this, please give us a thumbs up. Remember to click subscribe and click on the bell, and that way you'll be notified when the next part is published. So, Luke Acts has become a really major study area for people in seminary, in Bible college, in universities, and it's a good area to study as a pastor to develop material for your church. So this is a major area of study, and you would probably get a good reading list before you started a course. But I've just got a few I'd like to suggest to you that have helped me, and maybe they might help you too. This is a book that I actually used when I did a Luke Acts module for my master's degree. It's written by a man called Shillington, and it's called An Introduction to the Study of Luke Acts. And I have to say, I found this really helpful. It covers all the main areas and talks about the two books very much as a whole. And of course, we do believe that Luke and Acts were both written by Luke, and were both written to Theophilus, whether you believe he is a literary device or whether you believe he was a real person. And this book treats it as sort of like volume 1 and volume 2, and it talks about all the key areas of Lucan studies. Obviously, you can't talk about everything, but it does cover a lot. So, for example, it talks about the socio-rhetorical culture, the narrative discourse, post-colonial engagement. It even gives us a feminist view, and also talks about historical inquiry and composition, events and people. So there's a lot in there, and this is not an expensive book. And frankly, I'd recommend it to anybody that's starting to study Luke Acts. Now, there is another one that's come out more recently, which I bought as soon as it came out, and I really wished I'd had this when I was doing my Luke Acts module. And it's by Joel Green. Now, Joel Green is a commentator of huge effect and has written widely on the area of Luke's Gospel. And this is called Discovering Luke, and it's really an excellent volume and a good way to start a study of Luke itself or Luke Acts together. And so, for example, it talks about ways of reading Luke's Gospel in the Middle Ages, through the Reformation period, and today. And it talks about the architecture of Luke's Gospel, if you like, its anatomy. And you get some key areas where it gives a lot of effort, like, for example, to Mary's Magnificat, and Mary's song goes into more details on Jesus' missional program. And there's too much to talk about in a minute or so, but I have to say, if I was going to buy two books to start studying Luke Acts, I would buy Shillington and I would buy Joel Green's Discovering Luke. So those, I think, are very good starting points. Now, when I did my study, two books that were highly recommended to me, and I have to say these books were a godsend to me when I was studying Luke Acts. These are books written by Robert Tanhill, and they're called The Narrative Unity of Luke Acts, a Literary Interpretation. And they come in two volumes. Volume 1 deals mainly with Luke, and Volume 2 deals mainly with Acts. But these are just great volumes, full of exposition of God's Word and really giving you good contextual approach. There's a real, in Volume 1, there's a real big deal about salvation and the mission of both John the Baptist and Jesus as preacher and healer. And the thing that really helped me was his emphasis on Jesus's mission to the oppressed and the excluded. If you like, Luke is the gospel to the oppressed and excluded peoples. If you start reading through Luke, you'll find that miracles almost alternately male and female, and you'll find all the difficult social groups in Luke, starting with the shepherds receiving the message rather than the king, and shepherds, of course, being very much the underdogs of that society, and the sort of people that you didn't want to be stood in the village centre when they came back in after being outside for 4 months. So this is a really helpful volume, as is the one on Acts. And I would suggest, if you're going to really study Luke and Acts, buying the 2 of these is a very good investment. Or if you can check them out in the library, whichever works for you. I'm mainly dealing with Luke in this first one, but there are just a number of sort of left field books that I'd like to mention to you that can be helpful if you're studying. For example, a guy named Edward Woods, which you have to say that quickly because otherwise it's a bit of a tongue twister. He wrote something that's been published by Sheffield Academic Press, which is a great overview of the finger of God and pneumatology in Luke Acts. You know, where Jesus says, if I cast out demons by the finger of God, then. Well, this book goes into that in depth and links it with pneumatology, which is a real strong theme throughout Luke and Acts. And that's, if you can get one of those fairly cheap, it's a sort of thing that does come up second-hand, reasonably priced. I would suggest to you that's a worthwhile read in any study of Luke Acts, particularly if you're coming at it from a charismatic Pentecostal viewpoint. And this one by Mittelstadt is the other one of these more academic volumes that I wanted to recommend to you. And this is The Spirit and Suffering in Luke Acts. And he goes through the 2 volumes and he tries to link up the empowerment of the Spirit and the suffering of the disciples and those who follow Jesus. And that is also a very interesting area of study. So those are books which I wouldn't say are essential, but if you saw them cheap, they're very, very helpful. Or if you were able to get them through a university library or something, they're excellent volumes to have. Just a couple of others. Howard Marshall has again been a great commentator for many years. We were sorry to lose him when he died, but Luke, a historian and theologian, is an excellent overview of Luke's work, looking at him both from the point of view of writing history, writing a biography of Jesus, and also as a theologian, which of course some people have disputed that, but I don't see how such a dispute can stand up to rigorous study, frankly. But he talks about the older viewpoint of Luke and the more modern viewpoint of Luke. And he talks about Luke's theology of salvation, talks about how God is his saviour, and he talks about saving the lost. And he also talks about what we must do to be saved. So this book has got a lot about God's plan of salvation in it. Again, I bought this secondhand, very, very reasonably priced. It's the sort of book that comes up and is a worthwhile investment. Now, there are other ways, other things that I just want to mention briefly. This is a very short book by Robert Carris, Eating Your Way Through Luke's Gospel. This was on my reading list, actually. What Carris does is he points out how many meals there are in Luke and takes you through that, linking events together via meals. And that's actually a very interesting study and well worth considering. It's also worth saying that you probably need a good access to a good commentary or two. And one that I like the Abingdon series of commentaries, but one that is outstanding in the Abingdon series is Robert Tanhill's commentary on Luke. And this is an obvious link to his other two books. And this is a brilliant commentary. I thoroughly endorse that one. Now, in terms of commentaries on Luke, I want to really just point out the three top ones from my point of view. Or shall I say, the three that I wouldn't want to walk away from a fire without carrying. And the 2-volume one by David A. Neal, which is in the New Beacon Bible Commentary. Now, this is not an old commentary at all. It's actually very recent. Let me see, it's 2011. This 2-volume book really goes into a lot of depth. It's great for pastors, great for academic students as well. It's not so complicated that a pastor who hasn't had any formal training couldn't cope with it. I think it's good. It's just a little bit more meaty than the Abingdon one. But this is always one of my go-to series, and I really do enjoy that. I mentioned I. Howard Marshall before, and this is his New International Greek Testament commentary, which is a real high standard of technical academic commentaries. It's very, very good. Of course, this does use a lot of original Greek, but frankly, I think you can get through this without a real high degree of Greek knowledge. And Marshall has a brilliant insight or two in this commentary, and I think it's absolutely a brilliant one. The last one that I want to mention before next week's conclusion is Joel Green's commentary on Luke. Now, this is the New International Commentary on the New Testament, the NICNT. It's a very juicy volume. There are over 900 pages. It's a brilliant piece of work. And frankly, I would have to say, these days, this is probably the first book I open when I'm studying Luke. I will definitely use Neal from the New Beacon Bible Commentary, and I will definitely use Marshall. But this one is probably the first one I always go to. Joel Green has offered so much to Lucan studies, and this commentary is an outstanding commentary that we can all benefit from. So that's the first half of this video. We're dealing with Luke Acts, and that was primarily Luke, but Lucan studies. And next time we'll finish off this subject, focusing a little bit more on Acts. If that's helped you, please give us a thumbs up. Remember to click subscribe and to click on the bell, and you'll know as soon as we have published another edition of Pastor's Library. God bless you.